Hey guys, welcome to another video. Let's discuss supraventricular tachycardia. This video has a lot of common ECGs that are commonly asked in the NEET exam, so this shall be useful from examination point of view. And tachycardia means a heart rate of more than 100 per minute, right? And now the tachycardia can originate either in supraventricular or in ventricular. Okay, there are two type of tachycardias, ventricular and supraventricular. Okay, supraventricular when the rhythm originates above ventricle, either in the SA node, either in the atria or in the AV node. And ventricular tachycardia, here the impulse originates in the ventricular muscle. Supraventricular tachycardias, they are associated with narrow QRS complex. What do we understand by the term narrow QRS complex? When the duration of QRS is less than 0.12 seconds. Whereas ventricular tachycardia, they are associated with a QRS duration more than 0.12 seconds. Now on ECG, one small box is equal to 0.04 seconds. Therefore, 0.12 seconds will be 3 small boxes. Okay, so in supraventricular tachycardia, QRS duration is less than 3 boxes, and in ventricular tachycardia, it is more than 3 boxes, more than 0.12 seconds. And why is that so? Why is there QRS prolongation? Why does the duration of QRS increase in ventricular tachycardia? Well, in ventricular tachycardia, the impulse generates in the ventricular muscle and travels from one muscle to another muscle. So the impulse propagates through muscular transmission. Now this is not a normal pathway of conduction. Okay, so this is very slow, and that's why the QRS duration prolongs in ventricular tachycardia. Whereas in supraventricular tachycardia, the impulse, whether it generates in the SA node or in the atria, travels through the AV node and through the normal Purkinje system of conduction. So that's why here the QRS duration is normal, because the ventricular activation is normal, not delayed as in ventricular tachycardia. So that is the basic difference, but there are also some exceptions to the rule. Okay, when there is supraventricular tachycardia, suppose the SA node is generating impulse, it comes to the AV node and goes through the Purkinje system, but there is a block in the bundle branch. So now what will happen? The ventricular activation will be delayed and the QRS will prolong. So when supraventricular tachycardia is associated with bundle branch block, then the QRS duration can be prolonged even in SVT. This is the first scenario, and the second scenario is when the supraventricular tachycardia is associated with an accessory pathway. Now what do I mean by accessory pathway? Suppose the impulse is generating in the AV node and there is an accessory pathway which connects the atria to the ventricle. Now this impulse, instead of going to the AV node, it goes through the accessory pathway and enters the ventricular muscle. Now again, the ventricular activation will be through ventricular muscle transmission, and we know that this is slow. So again, there will be broadening of the QRS complex. There will be increase in the QRS duration by more than 0.12 seconds. So when the supraventricular tachycardia is associated with, one is bundle branch block and second is accessory pathway, then there can be a wide QRS complex even in supraventricular tachycardia. But these are exceptions. These are not common. These are exceptional situation, and they require a different set of criteria to diagnose. But let's stick to our discussion of approach to supraventricular tachycardia. And this is the stepwise approach, and first we will look at the heart rate in an ECG. We will decide whether there is tachycardia or not. Second thing, we will look at whether it is narrow or whether it is wide. We know that if it is narrow, then definitely it is supraventricular tachycardia. If it is wide, then it can be either ventricular tachycardia or supraventricular tachycardia with bundle branch block or accessory pathway. So when we come across narrow, we know that it is supraventricular tachycardia. Now we will look at the RR interval. The next step is to look at the RR interval. If it is irregular, then it can be atrial fibrillation, flutter, or multifocal atrial tachycardia. Okay, how to differentiate between these three? We have to look at the P wave. If the P wave is absent, it is atrial fibrillation. If the P wave is present, it is multifocal atrial tachycardia or atrial flutter. If the RR interval is regular, then it can be either sinus tachycardia, paroxysmal supraventricular tachycardia, or focal atrial tachycardia. How we will differentiate between the three? Again, we have to look at the P wave. If the P wave is absent, it is PSVT. Okay, and if the P wave is present, then it can be sinus tachycardia and it can be focal atrial tachycardia. Okay, let's look at the ECGs. So for comparison, here I have put two ECGs, and if we look here, there is tachycardia, the heart rate is more than 100. Look at the QRS complex duration. Okay, and compare this with this. This is a wide complex tachycardia, right? This is a narrow complex. So this is a supraventricular tachycardia. This can be ventricular tachycardia or supraventricular tachycardia with bundle branch block / accessory pathway. I hope that we are clear with this basic differentiation. Look here, the QRS duration, it is much prolonged than here. It is more than 3 boxes here. Okay, look at this QRS complex. So that is our first step, that is the initial step in while looking at the ECG. Second, we have to look is whether it is regular or whether it is irregular. Look at this ECG. The duration of RR interval is equal in this ECG, and it is variable in this ECG. So when it is regular, what are the three differential diagnoses? Either it is sinus tachycardia, either it is PSVT, or it is focal atrial tachycardia. When it is irregular, what are our DDs? Our differential diagnosis is either multifocal atrial tachycardia, atrial fibrillation, or atrial flutter. Let's go to the next ECG. Now here we see that there is tachycardia, that is the first step. Okay, how do we calculate? This is an irregular rhythm, right? Look at the RR interval, look at this RR interval, and look at this RR interval. This RR interval is more than this RR interval, so this is an irregular rhythm. Okay, so whenever there is irregular rhythm, how do we calculate the heart rate? That is again important question. How do we do? So we calculate per minute, per 60 seconds. Okay, so this is, we know that one box is 0.2 seconds here. This one entire box is 0.2 seconds. Okay, I hope that you guys know the basic of ECG strip. I'll be making a video to cover even this, but for the time being, let's remember that this one box is 0.2 seconds. Okay, we take such 15 boxes. So 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10 11 12 13 14 15. So we have taken 15. Now what will be 15 boxes? If one box is 0.2 seconds, what will be 15 boxes? It will be 3 seconds, right? Now there are 5 contractions in 3 seconds. So how many contractions in 60 seconds? 5 in 3. So how many contractions in 60 seconds? We have to divide the 5 by 20. So that will be 100 per minute. So this ECG is showing first step tachycardia. Okay. Second, look at the QRS complexes. They are narrow. Third step, look at the RR interval. Look at this RR interval and this RR interval. So it's irregular. There is tachycardia, narrow QRS complex. It is irregular. And now we know that the next step is to look at the P wave. Is there a proper P wave before the QRS? No. The baseline is only fluctuating like that. There is no proper P wave. The baseline is actually fluctuating. These are called F waves, fibrillatory waves. What is this situation? Irregular QRS complexes with no P wave. This is atrial fibrillation. Let's go to another ECG. Here again the rhythm is irregular, right? Look at the QRS complex here and look at the difference in the RR interval here and look at the difference in the RR interval here. So what is the heart rate here? We will calculate the heart rate by the same principle. Heart rate is, let's take 15 boxes, 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10 11 12 13 14 15. So again in 3 seconds there are 5 contractions. So in 60 seconds there will be 100 per minute. So there is tachycardia. Now look at the QRS complexes. They are narrow. The RR interval is irregular. Now look at the P wave. Is P wave present? Are definite P waves present? So there are P waves present. Sometimes there are 3 P waves followed by a QRS complex. Sometimes there is 1 P wave followed by a QRS complex. Here 3 P waves followed by a QRS complex. So, and if we notice, the baseline has a saw-toothed appearance. This appearance like this. Saw-toothed appearance. Where do we find this? This ECG is of atrial flutter with variable block. Why do I say variable block? Let's see. Here there is 4:1 block. That means out of 4 P waves, only 1 is transmitted to the ventricle. See. Whereas here it is again 4:1 block. Whereas here it is 2:1 block. Okay, out of 2, 1 has been transmitted. So this is variable block. Atrial flutter. Okay, but we can definitely see the P waves. So when the P waves are present with a saw-toothed appearance like this, this is atrial flutter. We know that P waves are also present in multifocal atrial tachycardia. Let's look at the ECG of multifocal atrial tachycardia. So we can see the RR interval here and see the RR interval here. It is irregular. Are the P waves present? There are definite P waves present. P waves are present. But there is something very peculiar about these P waves. Look at the P wave here and look at the P wave here and look at the P wave here. This P wave looks different than this P wave, So when the P wave morphologies are different, it is called as multifocal atrial tachycardia. What do we understand by the term multifocal? That means that different impulses are arising from different areas in the atrium. Some impulse is arising from here going to the AV node. Some impulses arising from here going to the AV node. Some from here going to the AV node. That's why there are different P wave morphologies, because there are different atrial foci which are firing towards the AV node, and that's why the P wave is different. So whenever you come across an ECG which is having a narrow complex tachycardia with irregular RR interval with P wave present, and the P waves look different from each other. If you compare, the P waves look different from each other. Okay, so then that is called as multifocal atrial tachycardia, and this is commonly seen in COPD patients. So if sometimes if you are given a history in the question that the patient is a smoker, history of chronic bronchitis is present, and ECG is showing this, then you should definitely suspect multifocal atrial tachycardia, and you should compare shape of P waves from each other. Okay. Now here tachycardia is there, right? But the RR interval is normal. Okay, the RR interval is similar. Okay, so in this case, what are our differential diagnoses? Either it is sinus tachycardia, it is focal atrial tachycardia, or PSVT. Okay, PSVT has no P wave, whereas this too will have a P wave. How to differentiate between this I will discuss, but for now let's remember this is a ECG of sinus tachycardia. Okay, a normal P wave preceding a QRS complex. This is a normal sinus tachycardia. When the impulse is generating anywhere from atria except sinus node. Suppose sinus, there is a focus here which is firing at the rate of 150 per minute. Okay. Now this will be called as focal atrial tachycardia. Now because this is an ectopic focus, the morphology of this P wave will be different, and this focus can be located anywhere in the atria. It can be located even here near to the AV junction. And sometimes what does it cause? It leads to retrograde activation of the atria. So suppose this is a sinus node, and here there is an atrial ectopic focus which is firing at a rate more than the sinus node. So now this will become the pacemaker. Now what will happen? The impulse that this will generate, it will go retrograde to the right atrium, the left atrium, and it will come to the AV node and go to the ventricles. So now because the atria and the left ventricle are getting activated retrogradely, normally the P wave is upright in lead 2, but look at this ECG. The P wave here is inverted. So whenever the P wave morphology is different than normal, we understand that the impulse is originating from atrial focus, not from sinus node. Okay. So look here, the P wave is different here. This is a case of focal atrial tachycardia, because the P wave is not from SA node. The P waves look different here. It's inverted. Normally the P waves are upright like this. Okay, but here the P waves are inverted. That means that the impulse is originating from ectopic focus other than the SA node. Now here there is tachy. The QRS complex is narrow. What about the RR interval? It's regular and we can't see any P wave. This is QRS, this is T. This is QRS, this is T. So we can't see any P wave. This is the classical ECG of PSVT, paroxysmal supraventricular tachycardia, where there is only a QRS complex and a T wave. You can't see a P wave. The P wave is actually buried in the QRS complex. Why, we shall understand in another video that I'll make on PSVT, on the mechanism of PSVT. But for now, let's understand that there will be no P wave in PSVT, and this is a classical ECG of PSVT. Now we learnt atrial flutter under the heading of irregular RR interval, and we saw this ECG, right, where the RR interval were different. This was because the block was variable. Suppose the SA node, due to some pathology, or suppose the atrial muscle is firing at the rate of 160 or 360, suppose 360, is the AV node capable of allowing so many impulses to the ventricle? No. The AV node is not capable of allowing 360 impulses to reach to the ventricle. Okay. So what will happen? Intermittently the impulses will be dropped. So for example, the atria is firing 4 impulses. Out of this only 1 will come here, like here. This 4th has got transmitted. These 3 were dropped, blocked by the AV node. Okay. Similarly, look here. This 1 was dropped and the other was transmitted. So here it is not fixed. Sometimes the atria is allowing, out of 4, only 1 impulse to pass through the AV node to the ventricle. So here there is 4:1 block. Here there is 2:1 block. Okay. So this is variable block. So when atrial flutter is associated with variable block, the RR intervals are irregular. But when the block is fixed, if the AV node has decided that out of 3 I will allow 1, or out of 2 I will allow 1, or out of 4 I will allow 1, then this is a fixed block, and in fixed block the RR intervals are equal. Okay, look at the ECG here. This is a P wave blocked, P wave blocked, P wave blocked, transmitted, blocked, 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 transmitted. So this is what? This is 4:1 AV block. And in such a situation, you see the RR interval. The RR intervals are regular. So atrial flutter can be associated with a regular rhythm, but you can still pick it up by looking at the saw-toothed baseline. See, this is the saw-toothed appearance. Okay. And there are well-formed P waves. There are definite well-formed P waves. Okay. So atrial flutter can be irregular or can be irregular. For example, here this is also an example of atrial flutter with a fixed block. Here out of 1, 2, 3, 4, again this is 4:1 block. So thank you for watching, and I hope that these ECGs that I have included helped you understand the concept of supraventricular tachycardia, and I hope that next time when you come across these ECGs you will be able to diagnose it. So if you like this video, then please drop a comment, please like it, please share it with your friends, and let me know what changes I can make so that it is more easier, more understandable for you people. And please like it if you find this video useful, and let me know so that I feel motivated and make another such more videos. Thank you.